Now that we know how to return a value from a method, let's see how a method can return an array, a complete array. Here is main, and here we call a method called getInput, and getInput gets an array and returns it to main, which then prints it. You'll notice here that we don't actually declare in main how big this array is. Usually when you declare an array, you have to say its size. Int, the braces, my array equals new int, and then in those brackets, the number, the size of the array. And right here, we're not saying that. We're doing the left-hand side of this assignment statement as usual, but on the right-hand side, we're calling a method. And this method is going to create an array and return it to main so that my array is now the array that getInput created. And then we print it. First, let's see how this works. Okay, I'm asked for an integer, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I was asked for 5 integers, and then there they are printed out. I don't know why 5, but apparently that's what getInput is doing. Let's look at those methods now. I had moved them out of the way. Let's just push them back. So here is getInput. Public static. Now it's not void. Here in main it's void, public static void. Public static int array. I'm going to return an array of ints and then its name. It needs a scanner because it's going to get some stuff from the keyboard. It creates an array of length 5. That's why I was asked for 5 ints, because it created an array of length 5. And then we have a loop. So 5 times it's going to ask for an integer, and whatever it gets at the keyboard, it's going to put into that element of the array. So the first time k is 0, gets an integer, a0 is whatever that int was. Get another one, etc. When I'm done, I return a. Now you'll note this is just the name of the array. It's not a and some square brackets. It's not a with a number in there. It is just the name of the array. That's what I'm returning, an array. Print array, we've written this before. This is a print statement for an array, or a print method for an array. It needs the array as a parameter, and then I've got a for loop. However long this array is, I'm going to print out an element and a space. And when I'm done, I'm going to go on a print line so that I move down to the next line, so that the next thing I print is not on the same line as the array. That's all. So again, our getInput has decided that we're going to have an array of length 5. It's going to 5 times ask for an integer, collect the integer, and put it into the correct spot in the array. And the correct means when k is 0, it goes into a0. When k is 1, it goes into a1, etc. And then it returns the array. So it returns the array, and that goes into, it goes as the value of this thing called my array. And then we print. We have to say what we want to print. We want to print my array, and that's why we have a parameter here in our print method. Well, getInput had quite a bit of power here. It decided how big this array was going to be. It could, incidentally, decide it's only of length 3. And when we run this, we're asked for an integer. I'm only asked for 3 integers, and then I only print out an array of length 3. So the size of the array in this case is determined by getInput. Now you remember here I said, wow, it would be nice to get this part here into a method where we create our array and fill it up with random numbers. And that means that instead of declaring here my 4x4 array, I am going to have a method call. So now I have to write this method called getArray. And let's get that comment as well. Cut it from here and put it into a method. And it was a 2-dimensional array. And this is most of the code. I'm going to call that something else just so that you don't think that names have to be the same in the method as in main. So I'm going to create my 4x4 array. And before I return, this is warning me I didn't return anything. Before I leave this method, before I finish with the method, I have to return something. And the thing I'm going to return is my array. Now let's see if that works. Let's try to print out the data, and there we go. So apparently I did create an array, and there I am able to print it out. I'll go back to the code for you to see. The method is called getArray. It returns a 2-dimensional array of ints. The first thing that it does is create a 2-dimensional array of ints. Then it produces some random numbers here and fills up this array with these random numbers and returns it. And most of this was already in main. This was already in main, but I changed it a little bit to say that my array calls my method. It was way up here. It was way up here. I changed it to say, okay, my method is going to give me back my array and put it as the value of cookies. And then fill it up and then return A. Again, when you're returning an array from a method, you just return the name.